I love bacon as much as the next guy. Yet, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, or the IARC, tells us that 50 grams of processed meat will give us an 18% increased risk for bowel cancer. But this is a channel for stats, not food. So why am I trying to make you feel bad about how you eat? Well, this leads very well to a discussion about relative and absolute figures. The relative risk in this case is 18%. This is scary, right? Actually, this can be somewhat manipulative because the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the AIRC, tells us that only 6% of people will get bowel cancer in their lifetime. Thus, in 100 people, only six will get it in their lifetime. Yet this 18% increase, if everyone ate 50 grams of processed meat a day, this 18% increase would only change this from 6 people per 100 to about 7 people per 100. One person more who gets cancer per year out of 100 people is much less scary. This is an example of relative risk, the differences between relative risk and absolute risk. For example, the relative risk in this instance was 18%. There was an 18% increase from 6 to 7 people. Joke not intended. While the absolute increase in risk from 6% to 7% is only 1%. Thus, there's a significant difference. You can also hear this difference between percent and percentage point in the news. These two are completely different. 1% increase is not the same as the increase in 1 percentage point. How do I abbreviate that? For example, let's say there are 100 students taking honors math in at American high school. Last year, let's say 2 of them failed. This would represent a 2% absolute. This would represent 2% of the total. If 3 fail this year, then there's a 50% increase because we have 1 over 2, which is 50%. But there's only 1 percentage point increase from 2% to 3. Bringing this back to bacon, for colon cancer, there was an 18% increase in risk, but there was only a 1 percentage point increase in absolute risk from 6 to 7%. Again, not intended. Sorry. So this is important. This discussion between relative risk and absolute risk and relative numbers and absolute numbers is incredibly important for our current world because disingenuous people can try to manipulate numbers to suit their purpose. For example, let's say that NASA will receive a hypothetical 200% increase in budget. A politician might defy this as an unnecessary increase in federal spending. After all, 200% is a very large amount. And from the NASA currently has a $24 billion budget. So, increasing this to 200% of what it is now would mean adding another $24 billion, which is quite a lot of money. Yet, this $24 billion is actually a very small fraction of what the federal budget is. In fact, adding 24 billion would only be adding 0.36% of the entire federal budget, which is a very, very, very small amount compared to the rise in the amount of money that the United States government had to spend servicing its debt. That was about an increase in 6%. Thus, from these examples, we can see that it is very important to understand the difference between relative and absolute risk. And through these examples, I hope you can become more statistically literate. Thank you.